Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever part of the world you are. I know that there are some attendees who are from Asia or Saudi Arabia or maybe Turkey. Welcome to the very first California Bay Area Chapter Spring Virtual Conference 2021. I am Glenn Ryan Alejandro, Catesol Bay Area Chapter Coordinator and Chair of the Conference Committee. On behalf of the Catesol Bay Area Chapter Board, I would like to welcome you all to today's conference. The theme of this year's Spring Virtual Conference is addressing equity and diversity for online language teaching, which is very much timely and relevant to our current situation as English language educators. I am very pleased to let you know that today we've got 6 speakers who would be sharing with us their expertise about our theme based on their research, experience, and best teaching practices. So without further ado, let's get started. I have the great honor and privilege to present to you our plenary speaker for today's conference. A well-respected educator, Dr. Sedique Popal, has trained ESL, EFL teachers in English and Applied Linguistics across Afghanistan, Pakistan, Korea, China, and Germany since 1980. He has been an integral faculty member in the University of San Francisco School of Education, Department of International and Multicultural Education, particularly the Master of Arts in Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages program since 1993. His published research in bilingual education, linguistic code switching, has contributed significantly to scholarship in this field. He is regularly invited as a featured speaker at national and international conferences such as TESOL, Catesol, NABE, and CABE. And today we are very much privileged to have him as our speaker for our chapter conference. Recognition of his teaching includes Outstanding Educator Award at the University of San Francisco, Teacher of the Year Award at the College of Alameda, and Honored Instructor at the University of California, Berkeley. He also serves on the advisory board for St. Mary's College's graduate TESOL program and UC Berkeley's TESL certificate program. Dr. Popal is a member of the board of directors of Korean Center in San Francisco. He is the author of a grammar book for teachers, which will be released by the end of this month, something we should be very excited about. And currently, he is working on his second book on lesson planning and something we should be more excited about. As a former student of Dr. Popal in the MATESOL program at the University of San Francisco, I have known him as a very busy yet very energetic professor. He is an educator whose passion for teaching is extremely contagious, and I am infected. He is an epitome of a dedicated teacher, a great role model to be emulated by all. Above all, he is a person of integrity, kindness, compassion, and empathy. My fellow Catesolers, colleagues, and attendees, please join me in welcoming Dr. Sedique Popal.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I wish I were in person that I could have used multiculturalism to show respect and bow and do everything possible to show my respect to all of you. But thank you very much for this very generous introduction. And I would like to also welcome you all to the Bay Area Chapter CATESOL Conference. And I would like to also thank Glenn, not just for this great introduction that you gave me today. Thank you very much. But also Glenn and his team, Dr. Didem Ikichi and Koi, and also Tammy for coordinating this conference. And as you know, coordinating a conference takes an enormous amount of time and energy. And I really commend you for the amount of work that you put into this and for your leadership and currency in the field. Also, this morning, I'm also very happy, not just because I'm the plenary speaker, but also because I see a lot of my students as my former students that they are attending the conference, and there are others that they are also presenting in the conference. And of course, I already mentioned those that they are coordinating a conference. So this gives me special joy to see the success of these students, because again, this shows their commitment to excellence in education, and it shows their commitment and dedication to the field. And I really, really appreciate that. And that's what a teacher, a professor dreams, to see students successful, to see that they are selfless. They are in the business of giving. That's what education is. Education is an act, and teaching and education is an act of love and an act of giving. And I think all of you here, especially the presenters and coordinators, they just show that. It's a business of giving. They give and give and give and share. So the topic of today's conference is that concerns online teaching. And this online teaching, as most of you may know, is not within my area of expertise. But the issue of equity, diversity concerns all of us. And we all should do everything we can to address equity and diversity, not only in online education, but in every sectors of education. This is something that concerns all of us, and we should be all concerned with it. Online education used to be only for, let me share my screen here before I get too excited about speaking here. I usually forget things. So online education used to be for a few that they could afford it. It was expensive, it used to be expensive. It was for those that they were computer savvy. They just like to push buttons and make things happen. And also, it was also for those that they had an impossible schedule to pursue their dream of furthering their education. But COVID-19 changed everything. And basically everybody went on to online, not because they wanted it, it's because of the change that it brought. The fact that over 130 million people got COVID-19 all over the world, the fact that close to 3 million people died because of COVID-19 in the world, the fact that 31 million people got COVID-19 in the US, and from the 31 million, over 500,000 people died in the US alone. So all of this moved our classes online, and most of there are different platforms, but a lot of people took advantage of the Zoom platform, and that's what we are doing right now, using the Zoom platform to deliver and to share and to communicate. And overnight, more than 1 billion students in 86 different countries were affected by these school closures, and they all moved online. But of course, online doesn't mean that it is going to be, everything will be going to be, easy, and everything is going to be delivered without any difficulty. It had its own issues, and it still does. First, not having access to technology. Millions and billions of people around the world, they do not have access to technology. So technology is something simple like a laptop, like an iPad, like a smartphone, like a desktop. They don't have it. So if they don't have it, they can't benefit from this. So a lot of people, there was a divide. And this divide is because of lack of having access to the technology. Then those that they had access to technology, they had all of these gadgets, but there was not a reliable internet. So there was a pause in their education. We usually see what's happening in this country, which is the superpower and one of the most advanced countries in the world. But I'm talking about this to countries that they don't have power, electricity. And then, so when the school is closed, education is closed. So a lot of people were deprived. And the other thing is, those that they had everything, they had the technology, they had the computer, but they didn't have the knowledge of how to participate in digital learning. That was another thing, that a number of people were deprived from education. And I see this here in this country, in my communities here in the East Bay, that the students, that they have the technology, they have access to the internet, but they don't have the space, or not enough space, to sit down in a corner, because so many people sharing a 2-bedroom apartment in a tiny place, and 4 or 5 of them need to be educated. And it's very difficult to find a space, a quiet space to get educated. So this has its own issues. But sometimes the challenge may be because of what I just listed over here, but also it may be because of other things. It's because that the online classes, or the people that they were running the online classes, that I may be included in that one too, that they could not deliver the right way. And that's why some people did not learn. When this COVID-19 happened, everything, as I said, just changed overnight. I was one of those people who was challenged to teach online, to use Zoom without any prior experience. So I had to take courses. So I basically ended up taking 9 online courses and training session in order to prepare myself to teach my classes, graduate level classes, and 2 different institutions I teach, at UC Berkeley and USF, to offer these courses in a timely and in a way that students could benefit. I benefited from a lot of these classes, but there were classes, there were presenters, there were professors that they really could have benefited from some tips on how to teach, basically. And if they learn some of the principles that all of us in this group, in this community, that we just communicating with one another, what we call it the TESOL principles, teaching English to speakers of other languages. If these people had used some of these principles, they could have delivered the materials a lot more successfully. So what I'm going to do is to remind you what these principles are. And regardless of whether you teach English as a second foreign language, or whether you teach a content area, or whether you teach a university level course or an adult education course, non-credit ESL, English as a foreign language, this principle will stand and will help you and help the other instructors, because a lot of you here are in the business of teacher training too. So it's a good reminder that these principles will work. The first and most important principle, and I'm not that smart to come up with all these principles. I've looked at the literature and I've put these principles together, and not all of you will agree with the number of principles I have. You may shorten it, you may make it longer, or I've collapsed some of the principles, but anyhow. So the first principle, I think, based on my experiences of, as Glenn kindly mentioned, of teaching and training teachers in 6 different countries and 3 different continents, is the first principle, I believe, is Dr. Barry McLaughlin's from UC Santa Cruz, that he believes that human beings are limited capacity processors. And this is a very important statement. And remember, please don't misunderstand. He doesn't say that human beings are limited in any way. He just says that they are limited capacity processors, meaning that they can take so much information at one time and process it. If you overwhelm the learner, then they don't learn. So his suggestion is what? Chunk the information. I think he was the person who came up with this term, chunking. So when we teach, and that's why I was left out. The people who came in those classes I'm complaining about, and I was thinking of all my experiences of online when I put these principles together, was because these people came and they overwhelmed us. Everything that they learned in 4 years of computer education, they summarized it in 40 minutes and to people that they didn't have computer background. So chunking is the more important, and don't overwhelm the learner. And Dr. McLaughlin, in addition to saying that, chunk the information, he also says that routinize the learning, meaning you give people a routine to practice, practice, practice. First, give them a little bit, not too much. And what little bit you give them, help them hear it, help them see it, help them do it, help them share it. So by seeing, doing, sharing, and hearing, the chances are that that chunk that you give him, that person may be able to internalize. So it's not going to happen overnight. Yes, there's so much information on internet and books. Can we present all of it to our learners? What is the benefit of covering so much and the students do not get as much of it as possible? So chunk, and then help the learner to use different modalities to internalize it. That's what he suggests. And then there is another leader in this field, and his name is Steve Krashen. I'm sure all of you have heard of him. And he comes up with the comprehensible input that whatever you teach, whether you teach ESL, EFL, VESL, ESP, IEP program, or a content area, don't forget I+1 principle. And that simply means current level of competence, one level above it. And for that, you need to know who the students are, what their backgrounds are, where did they learn English, how much English they know, what are their first languages. So that's what Dr. Brown, Douglas Brown's bring into this from from San Francisco State University. So I put those principles, basically those two things together. The Dr. Krashen comes up with I+1, and Dr. Douglas Brown says what? You need to know the students, because if you don't know the students, you don't know how to make it I+1. Your knowledge of the student's background, the level of proficiency could all help you to come up with I+1. So that's what he suggests. And then we have another leader in the field from Canada, Dr. Swain. She believes that, yes, you can give the input to your students for the rest of your life. Will they just learn if you just give them input? Go ahead, give input. No, she believes that input is necessary, but it's not enough. We need to help the students to have what? Output. So that's why she came up with this output hypothesis, that we need to provide output, give them opportunities. And this person is Meryl Swain. I don't know whether you could see the pictures, but in the my screen, your pictures cover the pictures of these leaders, but that's the, I don't know what you see there or not. But anyhow, so she believes that what? While input is very, very important and necessary, it's the output. So these are extreme theories. If you always push for output without giving input, it will not help. And if you always give input with no output, it's not going to help. And if you look at an analogy of listening to songs, probably all of us, I listen to songs all the time. I'm sure that all of you listen to songs all the time. But can you sing as beautifully as the singers that you like? It's because you never practice. You always enjoy to get this input and enjoy what you hear. But it's the output, the practice of what you hear that could help. So these are two extreme theories, but I will come at the end, which is what? To be in the centrist. We don't have to go this extreme. So input, but what kind of input is also important? And Dr. Krashen emphasized it. It has to be I+1, meaning current level of competence plus one level above it. If you do it that way, they will learn. If you give them output, everything will change. The other principle that I would like to bring to your attention is also Dr. Krashen's principle, and that is the affective filter or anxiety level, that students will learn best if they physically and emotionally feel comfortable. If they are anxious, uncomfortable, scared, they will not learn. It's just a fact of life. All of us here, I mean, sometimes somebody tells you something, but you're in a state of mind. In your first language, you're going to remember what the person said.
No, I'm not. I'm taking this off.
Learning in a second language. So lowering affective filter is another important thing. So Dr. Krashen comes with a lot of ideas of how you can make students emotionally and physically comfortable. And there's a lot of literature on this, but I believe the most important thing is this: honor what students bring in their classes. And what do students bring to their classes? They bring their home languages and home cultures. We need to find a way that students feel welcome in our classes, that their languages, their cultures, their traditions are honored, that we are not pushing one culture or tradition over the other one, that they are of equal importance. Their presence will enrich our classes. So we need to find ways to do that. If they feel comfortable that way, then the chances are that they will learn if we follow all other principles. And also, the other important thing is we need to do everything possible to make our students feel successful, that they feel that what? Yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. And how do you do that? And that means as practice for our classes is that in the literature I read now, if you say the word mechanical, people just, their blood pressure goes up because of what mechanical is bad, mechanical drill, bad. Well, mechanical is bad. I know, if it's just the only thing you do. But the purpose of mechanical drill is what? To give the students a feeling of success because they're so very easy to do. So you, by using practice exercises that are easy first, you boost students' self-confidence. And they get the feeling that, yes, I can do it. But then gradually and slowly move it from mechanical to meaningful and then to the communicative. But if you start with something difficult and communicative because the literature in the field says that everything has to be communicative, then students can't perform at that level. So we need to start with what? From easy to more difficult, mechanical, meaningful, communicative, so that students get the feeling, yes, I can do it. Another principle is that Dr. Brown brings to our attention is the distinction between facilitative and debilitative anxiety. Yes, anxiety is bad, but not all kinds of anxiety. So there are two extremes in the field. One extreme says what? Bring anxiety to the zero level. If you do that, will the students learn? In other words, you need to be too nice. If as a teacher, you're too nice, what is the consequence of that? So Dr. Brown says what? That yes, we need to bring the anxiety down, but we need to have facilitative anxiety. Enough anxiety that will push and drive the students to get the work done, to do the homework, to submit the papers on time, to give the presentations, to take the test, all of that. It's what? This facilitative anxiety. And I already mentioned the word test, and that could be by itself another principle, but I don't want to talk about too many principles. So that test brings anxiety. And this anxiety could be debilitative. And that means what? People panic, they don't want to do it. We don't want that kind of anxiety. But we want what? Anxiety that could push them get things done. I remember the tax filing thing, which is April 15. The people call it a tax day. But if the federal government says file your taxes whenever you want, you think how many people will file it? I will not because I have to pay. But it says that what? If you don't do it, there are going to be penalty. That is facilitative anxiety. Yes, you're already anxious because you are doing this thing, but you need to give them facilitative anxiety. And this year, because of COVID, and last year, they changed the date. I think it's now May 7th or so, or 17, I don't remember, but it's not April 15th. So sorry if you haven't heard it, they have changed the date. So Dr. Brown says that what? You need to have some, be very nice, but don't be too nice because it's not going to help. Another principle that I already talked about it in relation to Dr. McLaughlin principle is the principle of using multiple intelligences in your teaching. That you need to use multi-sensory approach in teaching. Activate different modalities. You need to activate in your class. Every time you lesson plan, you need to ask yourself, what do I have? Do I have something for people that are linguistically intelligent? We look at everyone as intelligent. That's the beauty of this. I like that. It's so very positive. It's everything is intelligent. Everyone is intelligent. That's the assumption that you make. But you need to have something for linguistic intelligence, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, spatial intelligence, interpersonal intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence, logical, mathematical intelligence, musical intelligence, and finally, naturalistic intelligence. It may be impossible to put all of this in one 40-minute or 45 minutes or 50 minutes class, but in a week, in a unit of presentation, you could probably implement most of these. And why? Because if you deliver it to the intelligence that the students is strong at, the chances are that they will shine and they will feel good. And remember, we said that you need to give them the feeling of, yes, I can do it. And that's what we need to do. And there is so much emphasis on intelligences and delivery. But one thing I did not mention in relation to testing, that when you test also, not just for delivering your lessons, but when you test also, when you evaluate, probably testing is not the right term, when you evaluate your students, when you assess your students, you need to keep this in mind too, that you do not evaluate them only in one way, that paper, pencil, filling in the blank, but you need to find different ways to see if you could use different modalities in testing as well as delivering the presentations that you do. So this way, people could shine. In other words, we want the students to feel successful, to be successful, and that to give them the feeling that, yes, I can do it. This idea was, of course, by Dr. Gardner, and you see the picture. And principle number 9 is give ethnic heroes visibility in the curriculum alongside the mainstream heroes and implement approaches to multicultural education. And to do that, I could say so much about this, but because of the time, so I really encourage you, because this is kind of left out in ESL classes, because the assumption is in ESL classes is multicultural anyway, because students come from different backgrounds, all of that. But how to really make it multicultural, you need to look at these approaches of multiculturalism. Dr. James Banks has a lot of publication on this, and one of them is what? Approaches to multicultural education, and there is a textbook that I read, or a book that you could read and learn about it. So the students could see that there were people who looked like them, who dressed like them, who ate like them, who spoke like them, also succeeded in this country. That gives them a feeling that what? If he could do it, I can do it. Again, the question comes what? I can do it. But you have to use multiple ways to convince them that they can do it. One way is to use the principles and approaches of multiculturalism. Another important thing is to use culturally responsive techniques in teaching. And to do that, you need to use the 3 C's technique. And my students that they took my methodology class, this 3 C's is difficult than the 3 C's of teaching vocabulary, which was convey meaning and check for understanding and consolidation. This 3 C's stands for community, collaboration, and content. Dr. Hellman comes up with these and a lot more than these 3 C's on techniques of how your lessons can be culturally responsive. So she talks about you need to share stories, bring personal narratives into things, because the most important thing is what? The students' background. Remember, we said that we need to honor who the students are. And one way to honor is what? To have this personal narrative out, either orally or in writing in all ESL classes. So we honor the shared stories. By sharing stories, we can create communities, express care. And when you do that, you show care, and of course, foster mutual respect. And the most important principle, I believe, for cross-cultural communication is expressing respect. And we need to show that in every class. And that's part of this culturally responsive teaching. Of course, all of us as ESL teachers, we have done this collaboration that could work online, could work offline, could work anywhere. And that's what? Group work, jigsaws, games, interviews. And I don't know how long we are going to be on this online situation. Looks like we are going to get in-person teaching soon, but it wouldn't hurt to learn all these ways of how this could be done in the online platform. And the other thing is that she says that in order to be culturally responsive, you need to have the content, the 3rd C. That's the variety, accessibility, and relatability. That what you teach has to be kind of what? Related to what they will do with English. Well, it's in our case of teaching English. So the kind of English that they need in their daily life, that they need in their daily profession, that they need in what they need to do in order to be successful, in order to be productive citizens of the country. You need to relate that to their experiences, and you need to make it accessible. And that is that you need to find a variety of ways, and even if it's online, that you record the presentation, that they could watch it at home. There's also a part of this that the recording could be audio and could be video. You make both of them available. They may not have time to watch this whole thing, the 2 hours of presentation, but they will be able to listen to it while they're driving or doing other things. So variety is the most important thing in content and accessibility. And finally, I'm looking at the time so that I do not go over time, is the most important thing is what? The principle that I strongly believe in, always tell my students what? Take it easy. Take it easy. Have fun with language teaching. Have fun in your classes and be a centrist. Be a centrist. Don't go to the all extreme of whole language approach with complete absence of grammar. Don't go to the other extreme of all phonics, that breaking the language into pieces and feeding students with each piece. Don't go to the all extreme of all input and all extreme of all output. Remember, we are not in the business to make any of these linguists look good. All these leaders that I mentioned, like Dr. Krushen and Dr. Swain and Dr. McLaughlin and all other people that I mentioned, we are in the business of making our students look good, making our students successful, empowering our students to get what they want. And for that, we don't have to subscribe to any of these theories. We need to be a consumer of these theories, to take the best, put it together, and present it. And that means what? That we need to use an eclectic approach. Of course, this is my philosophy of teaching. Not all of you or everybody in the field may agree with it, but I believe that these are all very intelligent people and they contributed a lot to the field, but I'm not going to be sold out to one theory. I want to get the best of every method, the best of every theory, the best of every model, put it together and use it in my classroom to make my students in that semester, in that class, successful. So it means that my approach may vary from class to class to class, depending on who the students are, what their background is, and what their level of competence is. So that's what I preach. That's why I put my picture here, that be a centrist, use an eclectic approach, and take it easy, okay? Take it easy, have fun in your classes. And also, I want you to also keep in mind, and please don't forget what Maya Angelou said. And you keep what she said in mind before you go to class, when you are in class, when you're giving feedback in writing or meeting with the students. And I'm sure that all of you probably, or most of you know what she said, but I am quoting it over here. She said that I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. It's a very strong statement. I believe in it strongly, that every day you go to class, you really need to keep this in mind, that we really need to make the students feel successful. We need to look at them as learners. We need to look at them as leaders. We need to look at them as knowers. And that's why I was so uncomfortable in some of these technology classes that I took, because the presenters made me feel like basically that I was such a stupid person, that I didn't know anything. 28 years of my education didn't mean anything because I couldn't push a button the way he wanted me to push. So this doesn't work that way. And I think I certainly hope that these people that they presented the material that way, they had learned a little bit about these principles. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, I like to bring it back to your attention at the end of the presentation, that after all, as Paulo Ferro and Bill Hooks gently remind us, teaching is an act of love. And that's why we are in this business of what? We do it because we love to do it. We're not going to get rich and millionaire and compete with Donald Trump as far as the money is concerned. But we are here because we love people. We love this profession and we want to make a difference. So again, I'd like to thank the Catesol chapter coordinators and leaders for giving me this very unique opportunity, giving this very unique honor to be here with you today and to share my experiences. And thank you very much. And I believe there is no room for question and answer, but during the break time, if there anybody has questions, you're welcome to ask. Again, thank you and have a great and successful day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Popal.
Thank
You're
you, Dr.
welcome.
Popal. I just realized I really missed listening to you. That was amazing to listen to you again. Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Popal.
Thank you.
I'm seeing some questions in the chat. Will the slides be available as well as the recording? And Glenn, do we know the answer to that or this?
The record, yes. This is being recorded, but it will take some time for us to upload this, but definitely we will share with you the link.
And how about the slides from the presentation? Will those?
I could answer that because I believe in sharing is caring.
Yeah.
So yes, I will share my slides and I'll show that I do care. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest. Yes.
All right, so we are going to take a break in just a moment for 5 minutes. But before that, we wanted to talk about this offer from ESL Library. So I'm going to share the link one more time. I'm seeing so many thank yous here in the chat. I hope you can see that, Dr. Popal. Getting a lot of love over there. So we have a special offer from ESL Library, our sponsor, and they are offering a 2-month subscription to everyone who's joining the conference today. The love keeps pouring in here.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
It was really special. That was a great summary of just English language teaching principles. So applicable. It's so easy to forget them sometimes, you know, with so much to remember. That's so valuable. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I don't want to take away from all this love here that's pouring in. Make sure you see that.
I do. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes. I feel like I don't have to do anything else today. Yes.
All right, so I'm going to post in the chat here. First of all, for the raffle, if you didn't get that earlier, go to www.esllibrary.com/giveaways, and you can enter to win one of our 6-month subscriptions to ESL Library. We'll be giving those away today throughout the day, but everyone who does not win the raffle or who also wins the raffle can benefit from a 2-month subscription. So if you're unfamiliar with ESL Library, it is basically this giant platform of resources for ESL teachers. It's a very clean, beautiful website. And there are like 1,500 lessons on there for everything from beginners to advanced and total. Full disclosure, I also work there, which is part of why we were able to have the sponsorship. But I do know a lot about that site. So the 2-month subscription will give you a chance to kind of explore, find resources that you like. They're printable, they're also digital. You can assign homework. There's just a ton of content on there. So that's the link to enter the giveaway. And for the 2-month certificate, or for the 2-month full access subscription to the site, let me post the link here. There's a special code for everyone joining us today. I'm going to post that in the chat, and it is BA Catesol 2021. So thanks for supporting the Bay Area chapter of Catesol. So that's the code in the chat, and then you're going to enter it at this link. There's a special Bay Area chapter Catesol link on the ESL Library site. So go to that link, enter that BA Catesol 2021 code, and that will give you access, full access to explore the site. And I'll just log in really quickly just so you guys can see what it looks like a tiny bit in there, and then we'll go ahead and take our break for 5 minutes. But just so you can see a little bit of what this is in here. By the way, they do webinars if you want. Once you're in there, you'll see a webinar link at the very top if you want to learn more. But there are just tons of different categories, discussions, and debates. So you can have these really meaningful discussions. I'm a huge fan of social justice and equity topics. So I was really glad to hear Dr. Popal touch on that. If you go into collections, for example, you can see that they do have different collections on these different themes. So there's like a social justice theme in here, all kinds of really great content, again, from total beginners to advanced, great for teaching online if you're sharing your screen, or just for printing materials when you're back in the classroom. So, you know, George Floyd protests, taking a knee, the LA riots, International Women's Day. There's all kinds of really great content in here. I'm really proud to work for them because I think they have some really amazing content. I wouldn't work for them otherwise. All right. The materials if once you get in there and you have a chance to take a peek, you'll see there's tons of ways to find the content. And I run the webinars. So if you join one of the webinars, I promise you'll leave an expert. So the webinars are free to join and you can register right there at the top once you're into the account. All right, I'm gonna get myself off of the stage so that you guys have a chance to run and take a break, stretch your legs for a few minutes, and then we'll be coming back in a few minutes for our next presentation. So let's join back here at 9:45, well, Pacific time. I know some of you are around the world. In 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, we will be joining right back here for our next presentation. So thanks so much.